We have some major breaking news as Parker Kligerman and Henderson Motorsports have lost their appeal to their disqualification from Daytona International Speedway. What's going on, guys? It's Daniel and welcome back to the video. As I just said in the Senate, we got some pretty massive and major breaking news as it has been officially confirmed that Henderson Motorsports and Parker Kligerman have lost their disqualification appeal. As it was reported by Bob Pockers and many reporters in the industry, Parker Kligerman and Henderson Motorsports lose appeal to the truck race disqualification. The panel, which consisted of Bill Mollis, who is a Langley owner, Kevin Whitaker, who is a Greenville Pickens Speedway promoter, and Tommy Wheeler, who is an ex-team engineer, were on the panel, and they say the panel confirms that it is more likely than not a rules violation did occur, and the disqualification penalties in Rule 10.5.2.4 necessitates to a race disqualification. Bob also continues on by saying a race disqualification appeal is an expedited appeal, and decision of the panel is final. There is no second appeal, so the Parker Kligerman's decision in a disqualification stands. Henderson Motorsports also did release their own statement after losing disqualification appeal by saying, update, unfortunately we have lost our appeal regarding our disqualification from last week's race in Daytona. While we feel that we had a very strong case, we respect the panel's decision. We again like to thank all the fans for their support. We've shown that we can compete and we'll be back. See y'all in Bristol Motor Speedway in a couple of weeks. Let's go back to what happened on Friday. Parker Kligerman and Henderson Motorsports, of course, took the victory lane, and they took the checker flag first. After basically getting it under caution, they came across the finish line first. However, a couple hours after the race had concluded, about an hour or two after, it became officially confirmed that Parker Kligerman had failed post-race tech and post-race inspection, and because of that, they were disqualified due to that, meaning that Corey Heim, who had also passed post-race inspection, he'd be promoted to being the race winner. The reason that they got disqualified is because they were too low in race heights, and not just one area, but in multiple different areas as well. Unfortunately, as much as I think they probably would have had a case to go ahead and win, most of the time when it comes to disqualifications, a lot of times it does stand. In very rare cases, we do see disqualifications come into play, and sometimes they're rescinded. I go back to Noah Gragson back in 2022, I believe when he drove, of course, for Junior Motorsports a couple years ago. I think they have been disqualified at Darlington for some sort of reason. They presented their case to the appeals panel, and they were able to win. But you've also had other situations like last year, Sam Mayer in Junior Motorsports. And of course, Junior Motorsports, the most popular team in NASCAR, they got disqualified, I think, for the same thing the Henderson Motorsports had been disqualified for. They tried to appeal it going into the weekend at the Roval as it was going to be the cutoff race for the round of 8. They appealed it, and they felt like they had a really strong case to win it, but unfortunately, they were not able to win their case. Therefore, it ended up standing. I do feel bad for Parker Kligerman in this situation because Parker Kligerman is a guy who doesn't work on the cars or the truck as well. And it's now 2 times that Parker Kligerman we all thought was the winner of a race. Unfortunately, doesn't end up being the winner of the race, but the rules are the rules, unfortunately. And if the panel does feel like that Parker Kligerman and the team had violated those rules, unfortunately, they do have to stand. And when, again, like Bob Pockers mentioned, because some are probably going to be asking, can they appeal? No, they are not allowed to appeal once again. It's an expedited appeal, which means that there's only one time you can go. It's not like other situations. And some are going to say, well, wasn't Jeremy Clements able to get his win, credit him back in the playoffs? Yes, however, we have to remember that that was not because of a disqualification. That was due to other stuff that happened a couple weeks later, and they thought that it was another situation there, and it's very different to what happened to Parker Kligerman, and because of that, they got to keep the win. We have to remember that, but they couldn't use that win for Jeremy Clements to get into the playoffs. Very similar, very similar happened to Kevin Harvick for the disqualification in Cumbers. We also didn't see Joe Gibbs Racing try to appeal their disqualification a few years ago, but we've seen disqualifications now become more and more common, and I think if these teams are messing with these cars, among other things, especially in post-race tech, NASCAR is going to go ahead and penalize them. I think there was a lot of people that were kind of saying and bringing up the conspiracy theories about the fact that they thought because NASCAR really was against Parker Kligerman, they thought they basically disqualified him to try to give Corey Heim the win. No, that's not what was going on. If you fail post-race tech, you fail post-race tech. It's unfortunate because Parker Kligerman, I like Parker Kligerman a lot. And it's a shame to see an underdog team like Henderson Motorsports has been around for many, many years in the NASCAR Xfinity Series when they were Xfinity team back in the day, and then, of course, part-time in the Truck Series. It's a shame to see that something like this happens to them, but you got to remember, rules are rules. And if they could present the evidence and had enough evidence to show that they were not doing anything illegal, they probably would have been able to win the appeal, and they would have been able to get the win back from Corey Heim. Unfortunately, that's not the case here for the team, sadly, and it's really, really unfortunate. Had they won their disqualification appeal, they would have been in the playoffs because I do think they would have ran the whole entire season. They were already talking about it after being the initial winners of the race, Spigot to Media after Daytona, but now they're not going to do that. The next race for them is Bristol Motor Speedway, which makes a lot of sense. Henderson Motorsports is kind of from that area, and I would expect that they're going to run a lot of races this year with Parker Kligerman. I think for Parker Kligerman fans, the good news for Kligerman, if there's any silver lining, is the fact this team showed they can still be very, very competitive. Last year was not a great year for this organization. They did struggle quite a bit, and Parker didn't have, not Parker, but Stephen Parsons, who was behind the wheel of that truck last year, didn't really show the pace and speed. And I know it's a super speedway, but Parker Kligerman is one of the best super speedway racers in the field. So I do think there's a chance that this team will be able to have a chance to compete at other super speedways. They're going to probably run Talladega later this year. At the end of the year, Parker will be behind the wheel of that truck most likely. Hopefully this time around, if they do get to compete at a certain racetracks, they'll be able to win and be able to let the win stand. But I feel bad for Parker again because, like I've already mentioned, Parker's not the one who's working on these trucks, among other things. But if you do mess with the trucks, if the team messes with the trucks, NASCAR does have to penalize them. It's been the rule since disqualifications became a thing back in 2019. A big reason why disqualifications became a thing in the first place is because of Kevin Harvick getting multiple encumber penalties, and people feel like that Kevin Harvick should not have been able to make it to the championship 4, despite probably being the strongest car out there most of the season. He probably shouldn't have been able to make the championship 4 with the big penalty he receives. Many people thought he was cheating at Texas Motor Speedway in 2018. Overall, as much as it's disappointing to see this for Parker Kligerman and for them to lose the appeal, sadly, it is the right call for the team, and I think they made the right call to go ahead and let it stand. If they didn't have enough evidence to show, you've got to let those calls stand. In my honest opinion, I do think NASCAR made the right call in regards to the disqualification appeal. It sucks for Parker because I know this team's worked really hard to be fast, but I think NASCAR did make the right decision overall, to be honest with you. So, that is going to be today's special breaking news report on Henderson Motorsports losing their disqualification appeal. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, notifications on, so if I win a video, it does go live on my channel. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram, and support me on Patreon as well. Let's go below that and comment your thoughts below on today's episode. What are your thoughts about Parker Kligerman losing his disqualification appeal? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And do you think Kligerman will win a truck race before the end of the year or not? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If there's any other major news that does break on the channel, we'll discuss here live later today. If not, the next time you see me will be tomorrow morning. We're going to have multiple NASCAR news videos dropping, catching up all the news over the course of the last couple of days. Then we also have some reactions to Xfinity qualifying as well, potentially. Then on Saturday, we're going to have reactions to Cup qualifying and the truck and Xfinity races as well. And if there's any major news that does break, so apparently there's a big news story coming and a big team announcement happening on Sunday. We might talk about that as well before the race happens. We've got other content chopping about Dodge, Junior Motorsports, and their future in NASCAR. Talk a little bit more of the Chase Briscoe penalty tomorrow. Probably more about the Henderson Motorsports stuff. Honda's future in IndyCar. Sounds like there's some big stuff around that. Haley Deegan, Shane Van Gisbergen, Cars, Kurt Busch, Kyle Busch, Clay's Farland, Matt DiBenedetto, Bubba Wallace, the lawsuit with 23 from her, some stuff around that. And we'll talk about some other big stuff on the channel soon, like Connor Zilish and Red Bull and all that stuff coming really soon. Chandler Smith, Eric really name it. All that good stuff coming really soon as well. So anyways, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's episode, and I'll see you guys next time for more great, awesome NASCAR content and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.